is the TAF Hub, a show brought to you by TAF Africa Global to educate you on real estate matters, to mentor you and inspire you.
After 48 years of working and also traveling all over the world, I am ready to share my experience with you, especially those young ones who follow me for inspiration. Hello everyone and welcome again to the TAF Hub. Today it's a very special one. It's special because it is being recorded at a time when we're observing both Lent and Ramadan. And as you know, Gambia is made up of 96% Muslims. It's 96 point something percent. And then with Christians we have 3 point something percent of Christians. But yet still there's religious tolerance in this country. So I thought that why don't we have two well-known clerics, one from the Muslim faith and the other from the Christian faith. They are very well known, so they need no introduction. But what I'll do is I'll start from my right and ask the gentleman, this man of God, to introduce himself.
Thank you, TAF, and hello viewers. My name is Pastor Forbes. I'm Francis Forbes. I am the founding pastor of Abiding Word Ministries, the Gateway, and I also have a public speaking training outfit called the Forbes Academy. And that's me, I'm a Gambian.
Wow, that's great. Short and sweet.
Thank you.
Now let me turn to my left. You have here a vulnerable imam. So I'll also do the same thing and ask him to introduce himself.
أعوذ بالله القدير من الشيطان الرجيم. My name is Imam Ba Leigh, a religious leader and an imam at the Kanifing East Central Mosque. I'm a Gambian as well.
Excellent. So today it's a day of your short statements, huh? But Imam, let me start with you. Can you please just give us your background and how did this noble profession begin?
Well, I think my background is a very simple one. I was born in and raised in Serekunda and did all my childhood activities as everybody between Serekunda and Banjul. And my father was a teacher. He was the first ustaz that was appointed by then KMC as a teacher, ustaz, Quranic teacher they call him, at the Serekunda Primary School. If you can remember, Serekunda Primary School is just like a copy to Mohammedan School of Banjul. Because in the early age of this country, education is run only by, or mostly by Christian. When I say education, I mean the Western education. You have St. Peter's, St. Mary's, and all the St. Teresa's and the like. So most of our elderly people, especially Muslims, they want to see their schools also. Their kids go to Islamic schools. They teach both Islam and the Western education. That was the initiatives that built Mohammedan School. So that's why it was called Mohammedan School. And a copy of Mohammedan School was Serekunda School. So that encouraged many parents to send their kids in Serekunda School. So I was raised as a Talube in this sense mean who read, try to get, like you said, scholar under my father. In those days, you don't have many daras or Arabic schools. In fact, at that time, there was nothing like Islamic or madrasa. You have only one that was at late 60s, that was at the Khalifa Salah's residence. It was opened by his father. And our ustaz, there was Mbaika, a brother to Ustaz Maska. And then I was there also reading the Holy Quran, writing and the like. till I started assisting my father in his religious activities, naming ceremonies, marriages, funerals, till I become another thing.
Okay. But your father was your father in Imam?
Yes, actually, I belong to a very religious family. My father was an imam or a religious leader as well. His father also the same thing.
Okay.
So you will see at that time, Serekunda doesn't have a mosque. There was a small mosque led by a father of Brang John called Amadou John, according to my father. So Amadou John at that time was the imam of that small hut mosque. I can still get the picture of that place. And all Serekunda, Dipakunda, Larikunda elders used to go to Sukuta and pray behind Imam Abubakar Bey,
Okay.
father of Ismail Bey.
Okay.
Till Serekunda initiated to have their own mosque. And when the mosque was initiated and built, Imam Kutubu Toure was the first imam, assisted by Imam Makhtar Jaite. And that time, my father was the youngest among them.
Okay.
He was the third deputy imam of Serekunda. So, in a nutshell, my father was an imam, led this Serekunda mosque over 40-something years as an imam. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But now let me also ask the same question to you, Pastor. I mean, what are your different? What is your different background? You know, like in this noble profession.
Well, I was born in a church-going family, and when I was 12, I listened to a preaching about the gospel. It was in one of the Methodist churches here, and the importance of salvation and making Jesus Christ my personal Savior and my personal Lord. And at that age, 12 and 13, I walked down to the altar and surrendered my life to Jesus. And then I began to, of course, pray more. And there was a fellowship, a weekly fellowship that was run by now Reverend Femi Njie, then Sister Femi, with some two ladies from Work Mission, Sister Anne, Sister Shelley, but largely Femi. And truly, 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 if I am looking for a spiritual mother, it's Reverend Femi Njie. And then for some reason, I thought it wise at that age, 12, 13, to start praying and fasting about my future. And I remember I spent 8 days. I was in Form 4 then, and prayed and fasted. And as a young boy, I thought, okay, I wanted to do medicine and specialize in pathology. I really liked Dr. Fred Olfit then. In fact, in 1980, I was in Form 4. I did my first work, voluntary service at the pathology lab there. Mr. Lemon, Sar, and there was a Sierra Leonean lady, I can't remember her now, and Amin Dao. We all worked together. Then, long story short, I took the Nigerian JAM exam here in the Gambia, and when I finished my O-levels, I was in lower sixth when the results came. Those days it was telex, so somehow it came and got to the office of the Vice President, Andrew Kamara then, later Hassan Musan Kamara, and I had to go to Nigeria. But in my prayer life, I had this impression, deep impression, that my going to Nigeria was not just a university. It was like a missionary training. It was like a training. So when Nigeria had 19 states, I traveled to 16 of them. And mostly it was preaching. So truth be told, I was more off campus than on campus. How I graduated, it's only God. And later I found a pastor in Calabar, Cross River State then, who came back after I graduated, and I started Abiding Word in 1988, so 35 years ago. And I was sure that this is what God wanted me to do. Of course, In the early years, there was a lot of hue and cry and turmoil. The Gambia had never seen such a thing. I keep reminding people that the word pastor, P-A-S-T-O-R, was not in the Gambian vocabulary. We had reverend, brother, sister, mother, father, and maybe Bishop Elisi, but and up to now, some people sometimes even say pastor. They're getting used to it. But I had a deep conviction, and I think my great blessing was I came back home from university on the 10th of October, 1988. My parents were then in Brikama, and at dinner that night, I asked them for their blessing, and I said, this is what God wanted me to do. And right there and then after dinner, my dad said he gives me his blessing. My mom said she gives me a blessing and she would like to join me in this new church. So we started Abiding Word with 7 people and my mom at a small room in YMCA. Everybody sitting on tables, no chairs. And every Sunday we'll have to clean the place because maybe Saturday night there were parties, so there were bottles of soft drink and alcohol and stoppers on the floor. And I used to carry my lectern on this shoulder and my guitar on the other shoulder. I used to spend my Saturday nights at my late auntie's house behind the post office, opposite QCell, and walk that length of the road to YMCA and set up. And it just evolved and evolved and evolved. And it's a 35-year-old young story, but it's more of a conviction because people, it has been said, because you were born in a garage does not make you a car. So it's not because I was born in a church-going family that I automatically transitioned into that. I did biochemistry, and when I came home, part of my plan secretly was I was going to do my master's in clinical biochemistry. I had a scholarship to that effect, but the passion, I'm glad I didn't do it.
That's great. I want to now come in for things that you both have in common. Your father was a pastor.
Reverend in the Methodist
Was
Church.
a reverend in the Methodist Church.
Yes.
And then here you are now a pastor.
Yes.
Imam, again, his father was an imam. Now he's an imam. And then both of you come from Serekunda.
Dipakunda, yes.
Both of you from Dipakunda.
Nobody knows the name of Dipakunda. It's Serekunda.
Serekunda, yeah.
When you go out of here, it's only Serekunda.
Yes. So it is very quite interesting that here we have 2 men of God from 2 different religions, and they came from Serekunda. And I'm sure you've done your childhood days.
Yes.
Very quickly. You know, when you have people of God here, I mean, they will go on without stopping. That's what they do every day. But Imam, tell me quickly something that the public don't know about you, that you have done as a child. What would you say? Something that you have done has got nothing to do with religion, but you were just a normal kid at the time in Serekunda.
Dix.
What is it that no, it's not your turn. What would you say that you did as a child that is not reflecting on who you are today?
Well, actually, during my childhood, you know, my father was a very strong person that you don't go away without his consent. I mean, we were under such a control that we don't have the opportunity to be otherwise. So I think if I am to say anything that I did that people may not know, it's just like I was somebody who liked sports. And my father used to stop me from participating in sport, especially football. I have been punished so many times, and I was kind of good in football.
What role did you play in football?
Normally, I was, from the attack, anywhere I can play.
Left or right?
Right. I'm a rightist.
So you would have been probably in the Gambian football team.
Well, I hadn't been the pressure that was put on me because my father wanted me to master the Holy Quran. Which I didn't. I couldn't master it. I'm very familiar to it, but I cannot off-head it like others doing that Hifzul Quran. But he was able to teach me all the jurisprudence, the books available at that time, and then he was able to send me to Dhaka to join other daras. Apart from that, when I started growing up, I become in love with engineering, especially like electricity. If you can remember, in 1976 was the year that half-die power station blew up. And I was so, inquisitive. I went to the power station and I raised some questions, why this happened, and they explained to me, people like Daddy Njie and all of them were there as engine drivers, they called them at
Not
that time.
Daddy Njie, this Daddy Njie that they know.
No, not this Daddy Njie.
Clarify that.
This Daddy Njie is a small boy.
Yes.
I'm talking Daddy Njie is an old man. He passed away a long time ago.
Okay.
So there I fall in love with, engineering work. When I see the system, they introduce me to the machine, the cooling machines, the control room and the like. So I start asking myself, why should Gambia be so, in blackout every time, lights off and on? It was very painful to me. So I started communicating then with the Libyan embassy. They had scholarships, and I was the first person who applied for that scholarship. So they were even the embassy, they were so happy. They said, we have never seen a Gambian who applied for engineering scholarship. All what they are interested is Arabic language and Islamic studies. So I can fully remember that day I told Mr. Abu Aisha, he was the coordinator about scholarships and education. I told him I speak Arabic already, so I don't need to go and waste my time again on Arabic. So I really need a trade. I want to be skillful. So I had a lot of encouragement, and then that's the way I had the scholarship in 1977.
So you had scholarship to study what? What did you study?
To study engineering, basically.
Engineering.
Yes.
Electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering.
Okay, so you went to Libya not to study anything to do with religion, but you studied.
Actually, in Libya, you cannot study anything without having religion embedded in it. Because Islam in Libya, you have, they see them as Islamic State.
Okay.
So whatever you study, Islamic studies and the Quranic studies, is a compulsory subjects in them. But nevertheless, I basically based on electrical engineering for my 4 years of studies in Libya.
Okay. So Imam, here we come then. So what we again have in common, that here is an Imam who is today basically teaching and preaching Islam, and an Imam leading a congregation. But your profession is electrical engineering. The reason why I'm saying so, because there are young ones there who are now following maybe the Islamic teachings or the Christianity teachings, but you have a profession. That's what we want to establish. That Imam Ba is an electrical engineer. If I turn to my right, here is also a pastor who has a church, but is a biochemist. You read biochemistry.
Yeah.
So that is what you studied. So for the young ones, and that's what this program is for, so that we influence these young ones, positively, that you must or you should try and get a profession. Then you can lead and move on to do something else. But now let's move into things that are general and about the country. Given the fact that Gambia is a secular state, how do you both encourage and work on religious tolerance? Do you want to take it first? These are for two of you. We are known for religious tolerance.
Yeah.
With religious tolerance, having been born in the Gambia, but I would like to elaborate.
I am doing a TV series presently that's entitled The Gambia Getting It Right. And I am now in my 9th part, and I've been dealing with 4 words: CRMJ, corruption, religious, maslaha, jealousy. So I've just started on religion. And one of the statements I made was, I am glad I grew up in the Gambia I grew up in. Because I have precedent. We grew up together. He's obviously older than I am. And broad-based Serekunda, but Dipakunda. So Kolkunda, Konatekunda, Jaitekunda, Musuke Badrame, that whole axis. And when we say that you could not tell the difference, that was true. That was true. In upbringing, in many things. And for some reason, it appears now that it is skipping a generation, not to the economic, religious, peaceful benefit of the country, certainly, because the Gambia then, which we grew up in, and I'm sure yourself as an older brother, was very tolerant. In fact, I don't have any recollection of growing up feeling discriminated. I don't have a recollection of growing up even hearing the word minority. I don't have a recollection of growing up even with anything like a percentage ratio being mentioned, because it didn't matter. And the intertwined nature of our country is such that if I dig deep into Babali, I will touch Christians, and specifically maybe even Akos, maybe even Sierra Leoneans. If you don't even have to dig deep into my family, I have cousins, first cousins, blood cousins that are not Christians. So, but the way we relate and the way we support each other, the way we are out there for each other, it's phenomenal. And whether it's weddings, whether it's even funerals or anything, the support has been great. But it's as if sometimes you feel that it's losing its grip.
But let me just guide you on the question. The question now is, how do you work on it? How do you work and encourage?
Well, number one, you have to do a lot of talking, a lot of resensitizing, and going back to presenting the Gambia that was, which is what makes us here. And hope that it picks up. And also build something about love for country more than external influence that wants to tell you you are better than this. It's almost like dealing with racism. So I think if we do more of that and have more interactions like this and public ones that show the country that these are the same people, I think it will help.
Excellent. Imam, I'll turn back to you, but let me just remind you the question again. It says, given the fact that Gambia is a secular state, how do you encourage and work on religious tolerance?
Well, Mustapha, frankly enough, if we base our religion according to our books, we cannot be otherwise. Because we all believe all that came from one Almighty Allah. And we all believe the purpose of any religion is to create a conducive environment that we all can live together in peace and harmony. That is the purpose of all religions. Religion without peace, there is no religion. His church, my mosque, is full because of peace is prevailing. And peace can only prevail within human community when we tolerate each other. And when we talk about tolerate, you don't tolerate me because I am the way you want me to be. You don't love me because of the way you want me to be. You have to love me because the way I am. You have to tolerate because the way I'm created. You have to love me because you must love me because I'm created the way that Allah wishes. I am Babali. The way Babali is a creation of Allah. So you have to love the Almighty before you love the human being. And when you are in true love with the Almighty, you will love all creations without even being asking his faith, religion, or tribe, or race, or color. All those things are secondary matters. So really, you will see, if we are coming back to our society, I can fully remember in Serekunda. When I say Serekunda, I mean all the Kundas. I live with Dominic Mendy. Dominic Mendy is a son of Alphonse Mendy. Alphonse Mendy was a bit older than my father, but he see my father as his brother. And that's the way we grow up. Dominic is a bit older than me. We play football together. We did everything together. I can fully remember during Tobaski, Alphonse Mendy used to come to my father. Hey, Imam, ya gave us a time. Magi ame karbo kamne doje da diwlin doje da tamate. Harama jox la ko. My father laughed. They laughed together. And then he pulled out his pocket and gives my father what I said, you know, you the imams, you need help so that you will help others. That's Alphonse Mendy. You see, and I can fully remember Dr. Agnes Campbell. Her mother was at the Serekunda school as a principal. And that Agnes Campbell is my younger sister. She's almost the same age with my third brother. But she was so excited to come to join our dara, sit like the way we Taliban sit, and hold, the alua, you know, the small board that we write our Quran. And the mother used to come and beat her, pick her, then go back home. One day, my father asked me to go with him to their house. We went there. My father asked the mother, allow her to learn. It's not a problem. It's better than for her to be this and that. And then the mother herself brought Agnes to our home and said, my father, and during Dara, after her schooling, she will come and join us in our Dara. But on Sunday, she goes to church. Till we grown up, so, you know, funnily enough, you know, God doesn't do things unnecessary. Whatever he does is necessary. In the beginning, I can say she's a late developer, but she becomes so bright, well educated, up to her PhD. And funnily enough, where I'm working presently at the Commission, the National Human Rights Commission, we were appointed together and we worked together. She was a commissioner, National Human Rights Commission, I was a National Human Rights Commission. So we were living in that office like brothers and sisters. So in a nutshell, Gambia did not know at that time who is a Fula, who is a Wolof, who is a Maninka, who is a Christian, who is a Muslim. We all go to the same Dara, the same school, and then we play the same game. This started just very recently, and it's a reflection of the happenings of the world. Because if you go internationally, you will see how religion is used by politicians politically to divide us, to create an atmosphere that they can be fitting. That's what create so many organizations, name them Al-Shabaab here, Boko Haram there. They become, labeling themselves as enemies, as the only godly people and the only people who have the right to judge people with right and wrong, who will go to paradise and who will go to heaven. You know what I mean? Before that had never happened. So to work hard to bring this society back, we have to understand what is the creation. What is happening in the Gambia today? It's not a creation of Gambians. Most of the most radical and I don't want to use brutality, but they preach brutality. They incite violence. If you really follow them, they came just yesterday. You know what I mean? But Gambian, because to become a Gambian is very easy. If you go through our educational system, through schools, you can easily have all the certificates you need to become a Gambian. Excellent. And then you have scholars, you go and come back, you are a Gambian. And you start inciting trouble. Being a Muslim or non-Muslim is equal.
Excellent. So Pastor, let me ask you, can you tell us what was good about the secularism of the Gambia, living together as both Christians and Muslims?
It was just family. So you could eat lunch in a Muslim's house. If lunchtime met you there, you ate there. If lunchtime met a Muslim in a Christian's house, you ate there. In the next 10, 9, 8 days, this beautiful Gambian dish we call nanburu. Nanburu is drink bread. And I can't go into the details, but it's very well made. It will be crisscrossing the country. At least I know from our church alone, nothing less than 60 families. And it's a joy. It's a joy. And you see the reciprocal gift coming in the other feast. So, and that is still here. That is not going anywhere. And we want to push that more because it's the joy of it. And really, regardless the shakings that seem to want to divide us, I think the fabric of who we are as Gambians still exists. And as I said, it's what brings Imam Ba and I. Let me say something to Imam's credit. A couple of years ago, I was invited to do the Christian prayer at an NGO office. But for some reason, I wasn't informed, I didn't know. And I was somewhere, and he was trying to call me, but I couldn't take my call. So at the end, when I saw all these missed calls, and I called back, and they told me where it was, I actually went to the office and apologized. He said, no, but it's okay. Then I called him, and this is what he said to me. Well, I was looking for you, I couldn't find you, so I prayed the Christian prayer, and I prayed the Muslim prayer
together. That's excellent. So really, the message for us here is to show how tolerant we are as Gambians, as far as religion is concerned. That any Gambian that you see has got one relationship or the other, between the two faiths. Yeah. And I think that's our strength. These days in Africa, you have people being divided, basically because they belong to a religion. But thank God that is not happening to us in the Gambia. Yeah. And the reason why we're having programs like this is to stop it before it happens. As you rightly said yesterday, Imam, as we say in our local language, meaning that you should be prepared. Make sure that you prepare yourself so the fire doesn't get into your place. And that's the purpose of this hub. So we try to send the right message out there to people who are listening, that you should come to Gambia, because in Gambia, there is no difference in the religion that we practice.
Thank you for watching the TAF Hub. Until we come your way on our next episode, subscribe, like, and share.